Hello everyone, Ember Power here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'm going to be taking a look at all the new stuff that basically Scarlet and Violet has brought to Pokemon TCG Live. So first things first, there's a couple of new decks that we have to go over, including Koraidon EX over here. To be honest, I don't think Koraidon EX is this busted new deck. I think this is maybe a C tier, maybe B tier deck. I initially thought Koraidon would be a little bit better, but unfortunately that was a slightly delusional opinion, to say the least. But either way, Koraidon is an okay deck. It relies on the ability Dino Cry that is limited to the first turn to make it as quick as possible, but basically says you may attach up to 2 basic fighting energy cards from your discard pile to your basic fighting Pokemon in any way you like. So you can actually split up the energy, which is really nice. And then Wild Impact does 220, but you can't attack during your next turn. And then if we scroll to the left here, we should have, a new copy of Great Tusk EX, which has 2 attacks, Bedrock Breaker and Gigantic Tusks. Bedrock Breaker is like an okay attack. Maybe you could knock out an Evolving Basic like a Marip or a Magnemite, I guess, with Bedrock Breaker. The Gigantic Tusks doing 250 is a really solid number. I'm not sure if the deck actually plays any damage modifiers. If I just scroll down here and see if it plays. Alright, okay, we do have 1 copy of Defiant Band. So basically, if our opponent is ahead in the game, Defiant Band will allow us to do plus 30 damage. So effectively means Great Tusk can actually do 280 and knock out a V-Star, hopefully. So there is at least some kind of appeal to that. There's also the fact that your Pokemon with 250 and 230 respectively are pretty tanky. And we can also make fighting types even more tankier with the Pokemon tool called Rock Chestplate. I've just realized there's just been so much new stuff lately that I've kind of lost track of it, but I haven't been online for the last few days really, so that's why I've totally forgotten that they're going to change the whole way that tool cards work in the TCG. So there's now this little tool called rule box in the bottom right corner. But basically, this Rock Chestplate says this fighting Pokemon this card is attached to takes 30 less damage, so you can just make your fighting Pokemon that bit tankier. You also have a Lake Acuity that says all of your Pokemon with fighting energy attached to them take 20 less. So you can essentially reduce up to 50 if you get both of those in play. There's also a Grant to modify your damage. There's Arven to find out items and those tool cards, which is really nice. There's also some support Pokemon in this deck, which are pretty good. We've got 2 Riolu and then a 1-1 split of the Lucarios. I think this Lucario is probably just a wee bit stronger in this particular deck. Avenging Knuckle does 30, but it also does 150 instead if one of your fighting Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. So the whole idea with this card is that it's effectively a single energy attack cost, and because we're not really getting one-hit KOs with Koraidon or Great Tusk most of the time, what we really want to do is just say to our opponent, right, you can knock out Koraidon, but then I'm going to finish you off with Lucario. And that kind of just makes it awkward for our opponent because then they have to either knock out this one prizer or boss around it. So that's pretty solid. We also get 1 copy of the Brilliant Stars Lucario, which I think it's pretty decent as a single prize attacker. But the only problem is you only get 1 copy of it. So I would suggest either acquire some more of these, maybe beef up the Riolu Lucario line, reduce the amount of Koraidon you get. But that's what I would say for improvements. We also get a 2-2 line of Rev Room. I kind of like the idea, or I can see at least what they were going for here by including Rev Room, but it has the ability Rumbling Engine that says you must discard an energy card from your hand in order to use this ability. Once in your turn, you may draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. So theoretically, they want you to do this to synergize well with Koraidon EX. The only problem is Koraidon EX is most effective when it's used on the first turn of the game to get ahead in the game basically, and get ahead of your opponent's speed. So unfortunately, I don't think Rev Room is necessarily the best partner. But it's still decent, I guess. And we do play a lot of energy, 12 energy, and we also play Clara to retrieve those energy. So there is at least some positives. There's also 1 copy of Diancie here, which is really nice. It has the ability Princess Curtain. That basically means that your basic Pokemon cannot be boss ordered by your opponent's supporters. So it won't protect you against stuff like Escape Rope because that's an item. But stuff like supporters that have gusting effects, it will definitely protect you against them and just give you a wee bit more time. So yeah, that's the Koraidon deck. Fairly solid. Nice that they give players right off the bat with a C tier deck. There's also multiple ways you can build this. You can focus more on Koraidon with Great Tusk, Koraidon with Arcanine V from Silver Tempest, I believe it was. Koraidon with this Lucario from Brilliant Stars. There's a lot of different avenues you can go with this deck. So I definitely appreciate Pokemon for including this one. Next up, we have Arcanine EX. So Arcanine is the new Terra type. And what's really cool about this deck, actually, I probably should mention this, is that you actually get a 3/3 line. Unlike most of the decks where you only get like 2 copies typically of your best attacker, the Arcanine deck is pretty generous in that you get a 3/3 line. One thing I would say is that always go for 4/3 line of something. So 4 Growlithe, for example, and then 3 Arcanine. So just, bear that in mind if you want to either try and pull an extra copy of Growlithe or maybe to craft one. Either way, Arcanine EX seems decent. It has the Terra effect, which means it can't be damaged on the bench. So stuff like Rapid Strike or Urshifu can't damage it, which is pretty cool. Has 280 HP as well, so really bulky up there with likes of Lugia. Raging Claws and Bright Flame, 2 very solid attacks. It's not a very quick deck though, because you do have to set up this stage 2 really to get the most value. This Charizard from Pokemon Go. Funny story, I thought Charizard from Pokemon Go would be a fun partner for Arcanine, so I went and traded for 2 of these on my PTCG account. Now I feel really dumb because they just give you these for free. But either way, it has the ability Burn Brightly that basically says each fire energy equals 2 fire energy. So you can either use Flare Blitz for 2 energy, or you can use most of Arcanine's attacks for 1 or 2 attachments instead of 2 or 3. It also means we can use stuff like Heatmore with Exciting Flame does 90 damage, and if it has 6 energy attached to it, which is a lot to ask for, but if you have a Charizard in play, it's only 3 energy, so it's at least a bit cheaper. It can also do this 180 damage snipe to one of our opponent's bench Pokemon, and knock out a Luminion or an evolving Pokemon, so Heatmore is definitely a nice finisher. And then probably one of the coolest things about this deck, the Moltres is okay as a single price attacker. We also get 1 copy of Radiant Charizard. I'm really happy that they did this because just noticed like the strange glitter effect. But like one thing I'll say about this is I'm really pleased that Pokemon did this because this card is obviously expensive to craft. It's like 600 credits. And trading for it on TCGO was very difficult. Unfortunately, I was able to get one of these when they were only worth about 1 or 2 packs. But right now they go for like 5 to 10 packs each, which for some people that's very expensive. So I am glad that they basically gave this very busted, very playable card as a free card in a deck, basically. So yeah, very happy about that. We also get a 2/2 line of Bidoof Bibarel. Has the ability Industrious Scissors. Once in your turn, you may draw until you have 5. So this is where I think it's a little bit strange. I honestly think the Koraidon deck would be better off with Bibarel. And then I think Arcanine should be better off with Revroom. And why I think Revroom has more synergy with Arcanine is because of Magma Basin. So Magma Basin says, once in your turn, you may attach a fire energy card from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. You do have to place 2 damage counters on it, but that's, it's not the end of the world. And being able to accelerate a fire energy does mean you have to get the fire energy in the discard pile in the first place. And we do play like 4 copies of Ultra Ball, 3 Arvin, so that should be pretty easy, to get there, as well as like 4 copies of Research. But one thing I would say is I would maybe change Bibarel for Revroom just to see if, the drawing up till 6 is more efficient. Because otherwise, I think, Bibarel is just drawing 1 less card and it doesn't have that much synergy. But that's just my take on Arcanine, to be honest. But overall, very solid deck. I think it's another B, C tier deck. If I had to say, if I'd be asked, is this deck better than the Koraidon deck? I would say so, yes. I think this deck is just a bit better. I also think it has more potential if we get some better fire types down the line. And water types aren't shaping up to be too good apart from maybe Chien-Pao in the next set. So yeah, Arcanine seems pretty decent. Next up we have, I suppose we could probably save Giratina V-Star for last, but might as well go over it now that we're here. They actually just give you a Lost Zone deck as one of the free decks, which is kind of wild to me because Lost Zone is going to be probably the best deck post-rotation as of making this video. And the fact that it's a free deck is kind of wild. It's basically like, they did give Lugia as a free deck on the Battle Pass a couple of months ago. But giving a Giratina Lost Zone deck, this deck is probably going to see play until it rotates. So the fact that it's here as a free deck is very wild to me. Of course, it revolves around the Lost Zone combination of Comfey. I probably don't need to spend too much time on this deck because everyone's seen Lost Zone. They know what it does. But if you're a new player, then maybe you don't know. So Comfey has the ability Flower Selecting that says once in your turn, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck. If it's in the active spot, you get to choose one of those cards to put in your hand, but the other card goes into the Lost Zone, never to be seen again. So discard pile effects such as, Pokemon Recovery, they don't work because the Lost Zone is kind of this separate entity from the board. And why that's really good is we have this efficient attacker Cramorant that can do 110 if you have 4 or more cards in the Lost Zone. We have Sableye, which is an amazing card that says if you have 10 or more cards in the Lost Zone, you can place 12 damage counters. Then we also have the 2/2 line of Giratina V-Star. Giratina V has the amazing attack Abyss Seeking, which allows you to put 2 of the top 4 cards of your deck into a Lost Zone. And then Shred will go through any kind of like wall effects that would stop Giratina otherwise. And then Giratina V-Star does 280 for 3 energy, and then you put 2 of them into the Lost Zone. And then Star Requiem says if you have 10 or more cards in your Lost Zone, your opponent's active Pokemon is just knocked out. So regardless of their HP, they could be like a Mewtwo V Union, they could be an Arcanine with full health. You can just use Star Requiem and knock them out. So very busted attackers. And then we also have a Snorlax in here for a very efficient single price option. And this is card is usually a one of or 2 of in Giratina Lost Zone decks. So very cool to see. We also have 4 Cross Switcher for additional retreat and, like gusting and stuff. We also have 4 Scapegoat, which is essentially serving the same purpose, just to get out the active. 4 Switch to help with this. 2 Beach Court, 3 Ultra Ball, 4 Nest Ball. We even get 4 Mirage Gate, which is what Giratina needs to be able to charge up its attack. So basically, we can use this to find a Grass and a Psych Energy once we have 7 or more cards in there, which is really helpful. We also see like some interesting supporters. Full Chorus Experiment is what you'd expect from every Lost Zone deck. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You get to keep 3 of those cards, but 2 of them go into the void, basically, never to return. We also get Gardenia's Vigor, which is questionable. I honestly think this card can just be cut immediately for something else. Anything else really is just a better option. You don't need that many supporters in Lost Zone decks, so Gardenia's Vigor could definitely be cut. We also play a Thornton. So basically, why Thornton is good is if you have a couple of Comfey in play in the mid to late game, and you have a Giratina V-Star or in hand, and then a Giratina V in the discard pile, what you can do is you can Thornton turn Comfey into a Giratina V, but because all the effects remain on the new Pokemon, if that Comfey has been in play for at least 1 turn, you can still evolve the Giratina V, because it will have been in play for 1 turn, because the Comfey was. So hopefully that makes sense, but it basically means if you have a Comfey in play for a turn, you can then Thornton that Comfey into a Giratina V, and then evolve Giratina V into Giratina V-Star, and then Mirage Gate, Manual Attach, swing with Giratina. And you can do all of that, which does really good, because it means your opponent can't gust up and knock out your Giratina V before you have a chance to evolve it. So that's why Thornton is in the deck. Pretty cool card. There's like 1 copy of Water Energy as well, just so you can attack with a Dominion. I guess this deck doesn't come with a Radiant Pokemon, so like Radiant Greninja would be your best bet here, I think. So yeah, very, very, very good deck. This is a 10 out of 10 deck, in my opinion. Yeah, there's some couple of interesting choices, like Gardenia's Vigor doesn't need to be in here, but yeah, very, very cool deck. Then we see Lunatone and Solar Rock, which is like this infamous single prize menace. Okay, you actually do get 1 copy of Radiant Greninja, so yeah, I would just put that in Giratina and just remove the 1 copy of Gardenia's Vigor and swap it out for Greninja. But yeah, Lunatone and Solar Rock, pretty solid deck, honestly. I'm not sure if the Mewtwo V-Star deck is like the best variant of this. Mewtwo V-Star with Psypurge. Honestly, if you just like flooding the board with single prize Pokemon, then attaching a whole bunch of energy from Solar Rock to Lunatones, and this is going to be a deck for you. But honestly, I'm not sure if this is like too crazy post-rotation. This is maybe like a lower C tier kind of deck. It is kind of fun to play. I do remember having fond memories of Solar Rock Lunatone on the PTCG ladder, but some people don't like it. It's a bit like Marmite for some people, but yeah, pretty solid deck overall, I'd say. And then we have I think Miraidon was from the ladder, so we'll save the ladder decks for last. Miraidon and God of War are from the Battle Pass, for those of you who don't know. So I guess we can move on to Origin Form Dialga V-Star. So Dialga is an interesting one post-rotation because, of course, Dialga has the amazing attack Star Chronos, the V-Star power that actually lets you take an extra turn after using it, which is super busted. The only problem is it costs 5 energy to use. So how this post-rotation deck is functioning is using Magenzone with the ability Giga Magnet. It says, once in your turn, you may look at the top 6 cards of your deck and then attach any number of Meta Energy you find there to your Pokemon in any way you like. So that's pretty cool. And there's something else about this that they kind of show you with these decks. But basically, what you can do is you can take the Miraidon EX that you get from the free battle deck, which has the amazing ability Tandem Unit to search your deck for up to 2 basic lightning Pokemon, and you can actually combine it with the Magnemite. Okay, I have to edit the deck to do this, but I'll just quickly show you. If I, come on, load, please. Right, okay, we go Magnezone, and then we switch to available, and okay. So how do I get the other versions of Magnemite up? Because there is more than one, so what's up with that? That's strange. Maybe it's not out yet. I could have sworn Magnezone EX was in this set. Maybe it's not. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a bit of a detour. I didn't mean to do this initially, but I do want to see if it's actually in the set, because I could have sworn it was in the set as well, and apparently it's not. So I don't know what. Maybe I'm missing something really obvious. But I'll just go basic, see 217 cards. Yeah, so I should be able to do this, and then Magnemite, see if it shows up. Yeah, it is here. Okay, so there is a Magnemite, which is a lightning type. So basically what you can do is bench a Miraidon to search your deck for 2 Magnemites. So it's effectively, you play less of the metal type ones, and you just play lightning type ones, and then you shove a Miraidon, you find 2 of these on the bench, and that's just really helpful. It also means you can run like Magenzone EX and a couple of copies of Lightning Energy if you really want to. That was actually a pretty good deck in a Japanese tournament. I think it came top 20 or something like that. So it's like pretty solid. So yeah, that's what I would definitely say about the Dialga deck. It's a very easy change to make as well, because the new Magnemites are not going to cost anything to craft. So I would definitely make those upgrades. But apart from that, Zamazenta V, very solid ability in Regal stance. It's nice. Revenge Blast is also really solid in the late game, so that's cool to see. We also get a Bibarel line with Industrious Incisors, so that is pretty cool. Pretty similar like Draw Engine, we also see a different artwork of Rare Candy, so if you don't like the newer artwork, then you can just use these ones, which is nice. 4 copies of Arven. There's a ton of Arven being used in these decks. Not sure if Arven really warrants a 4, but it does find Rare Candy, so pretty cool in that regard. Honestly, just a very solid deck. I think if you make the minor tweaks to include Miraidon EX, I think this is easily a B tier deck, to be honest. So yeah, another home run, to be honest. I think this is really solid. So next up, we have 2 more to review before we go into the Battle Pass decks. We have Regieleki VMAX. So you get a 2/2 line of Regieleki VMAX, and then 3 copies of Pachirisu, which I've been very vocal about how I don't really like this card in Standard. Everyone's Discharge does 10 damage and then 20 more feature your bench lightning Pokemon. It's a fun attack to use, but it's truthfully not very good, even with the damage modifier provided by Transistor on Regieleki VMAX that increases your basics attacks by plus 30, which is pretty cool. It does combo nicely as well with the Zeraora over here, which does 60 damage if your opponent's active as an evolution. So if you have 1 Regieleki in play, it means you can just swing for 90, which is, it's not really enough, to be honest. There's just so many Pokemon with high HP. You can attack with other stuff, like there's a Raikou V in here with Fleet-Footed, and there's also a Regieleki with Terra Spark. I should probably mention that Raikou has Lightning Rondo, which is a very strong attack in Standard right now. Also, Raikou V is a very good tech card for Lost Zone, so the fact that you get this for free as well is also really good. You also get stuff like 4 Battle VIP Pass and 4 Electricity Generator. And why I think this is really, really strange is that Electric Generator is one of the rewards on the Battle Pass. Not the Premium Pass, but just like the Battle Pass in general. Like, if you progress so often, you just get a couple more copies of these. I think that's them intentionally giving you extra credits that way, but it does seem like a very strange thing to do, to be honest, if you get 4 copies, but, you know, that's my 2 cents. Honestly, I think this deck is unviable realistically in Standard if you don't make modifications to it. You could probably win a couple of games. There's some cool stuff in here like Leafy Camera Poncho. Basically means that your opponent can't gust or boss a Regieleki VMAX when the Poncho is attached, which is really nice. But yeah, Regieleki, not a big fan of that one, unfortunately. Definitely needs some upgrades. But Superior V-Star is... okay, I was going to say something more positive about Superior, but it's definitely not very good. You only get a 2/2 line for starters, which is just obviously terrible. It needs to be at least a 3/3 or a 4/3. But Superior V-Star is an okay attacker, I should say. Regal Blender and Star Winder are pretty good attacks, but yeah, I don't think Superior is really doing an awful lot in Standard. There's not really many fire types, really, apart from Arcanine and maybe Radiant Zard, but Radiant Zard has fallen off in popularity in Lost Zone. So there is at least some positives to playing Superior. But yeah, honestly, not a big fan of this deck. You also get a 4-2 line of Altaria, so they're kind of trying to push you into this magical echo thing where you move all damage counters. So I guess Superior really appeals to the player who wants to play a lot of different Pokemon in their deck, and they kind of want to do this thing where they, they move around energy a lot to try and set up this massive one-hit KO with Starwinder. Honestly, because of like the strange Pokemon card choices, like you get essentially 4 Swablu and then 2 of each Altaria, and then a 1/1 line of Kricketune to increase your HP. You also get 1 copy of the Kricketune V, which has the somewhat underwhelming ability Exciting Stage. So there is at least some synergy, I guess, between Kricketune and this Altaria down here. But honestly, I don't think this deck is very good. It's probably a fun deck to play if you're a beginner. Like, this could be a pretty challenging deck to master. But unfortunately, in the competitive environment, I don't think Superior is going to be cutting it, which is a shame because it's such a cool Pokemon. But yeah, not a fan of the support account either. It seems very wacky, but yeah, bit of a shame for Superior. But yeah, so that actually rounds up the starter decks that they give you for free. So we're going to actually start to look at the Battle Pass decks. So the first one we're going to look at is a Miraidon, you guessed it, Pachirisu deck. Pachirisu is a bad card. I'm not going to say this again. Pachirisu is a bad card. Okay, I just did. But Pachirisu is bad. You don't need to play 4 copies of this guy. Just play 1 copy. You also need like 1 extra copy of Miraidon EX, but don't panic because it's on the Battle Pass. So you can just get an extra copy of that. We'll have a look at that in a minute, I guess. So yeah, you do get a 4/4 line of Flaffy, which is really nice for Lightning decks. I would honestly move the Regieleki VMAXs and maybe 1 Zeraora and the Raikou over from this deck into the Miraidon deck. That's what I would do, to be honest, because, wait, does this deck even have... Okay, this deck doesn't even have Generator. Like, what's going on there? I guess it wants you to use Flaffy, but yeah, this deck needs Generator. It needs less Pachirisu. It's a very strange deck. I appreciate the inclusion of the Regielekis because they're both very playable cards. But honestly, this deck is just really weak for a free deck on the Battle Pass. I think it's because last time they gave you a World Champions deck, and that was really cool. But unfortunately, this just isn't really cutting it. This needs a lot of modifications to be playable. It also doesn't really know what it wants to be. It kind of wants to be this single prize deck, but you have to rely on Miraidon. Yeah, it's a bit sus, but yeah, with some modifications and some tweaks to other decks, this could definitely be a pretty solid deck, but, it will need modifications. So the next free deck, this one is on the Premium Battle Pass, so you have to spend 600 crystals to get it. The Premium Pass is always worth it if you think you're going to be playing TCG Live often enough to get it, because you can get 60 crystals every day through daily rewards, so paying 600 shouldn't be too expensive. But it's, of course, based around the infamous Gardevoir EX, and you do get 2 copies, which is really nice. You will get a 3rd copy if you play the Premium Pass enough, so that's really good. You do want 2 or 3 copies of this, realistically. This amazing ability basically gives you unlimited energy acceleration. However, you will place 2 damage counters on a Pokemon. So if I just go to Edit Deck, and I look up Gardevoir... I don't think I have any other copies. So if I show not owned and then C9 cards, this is the Gardevoir that's very, very good in this deck. If you can get a couple of copies of these, either by crafting, I know there's different rarities. Like you can just get not that rarity, that's the one we're on. Is that the one we're on? Yeah. So you can get like various different cheaper rarities if you really want to, like this regular rare if you really don't want to invest a lot of credits into the deck. Or, if you want to go max rarity, there's this amazing sub art. But basically, Gardevoir is just an amazing attacker, but we need this Gardevoir to be our main attacker. It's also great because it has the amazing ability Shining Arcana to allow you to draw more cards, accelerate more energy, and then Brainwave is obviously going to be doing a whole ton of damage. Also, if you migrated your account from PTGO and you did the celebrations thing where you have 4 of every card, you will have 4 copies of Zacian V, the psychic one, and just 1 or 2 copies of them in this deck can definitely help massively, so would recommend it. You also realistically need one more copy of Curlia. I don't know why they do this. They give you like 4 Ralts and then 3 Curlia, 3 Gardevoir. A bit of a shame. Also, this Drifloon should just be removed. Curse Spreading is just not good enough, but this Drifloon is really good. But yeah, we can probably look at the trainers. Is there anything more noteworthy? Yeah, pretty strange to be honest. Not typically a fan of these trainers selection. There's like no battle VIP pass, but yeah, I think you can modify them to be pretty good. But yeah, it's probably going to wrap it up for today's video. Yeah, let me know what you think is the best new deck. And yeah, thank you for watching. It's been our power, and hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.